Descriptive analytics, an introduction. So what is descriptive analytics? Well, as citizens of this world, we are continuously trying to improve the world we live in. Through the analytics process, we try to improve or add value to the real world. And as analytics professionals, we are compensated for the value we add to the real world. So improvements in the real world could be improvement in the health of an individual, improvement in the profits and cash flow situation of an organization, improvement in the political stability of a country or the world, improvement in the climate of the world, improvement in the education of a population, and on and on and on. We can think of hundreds and thousands of examples of improvements in the real world. So descriptive analytics plays an important role in this whole process of improving the real world. Let's look at the role of descriptive analytics in the overall process by looking at the big picture of the analytics process. So here's the big picture of the analytics process. Here's the real world we live in, and here's the part of the real world that we are interested in improving. So we're interested in the variables of the many entities involved in that part of the real world. So we collect data that represents the values of those variables for all those entities, and we call that process abstraction. And we're calling it low-level abstraction because we are able to do that these days. So we are able to generate data which is fine granularity data because data collection is a whole lot easier these days than it used to be in the past. But this raw data is not very useful as is, so we have to process the data, clean it, summarize it, visualize it, generate infographics that tell us a story or information about the current situation of the real world. Sometimes this story is sufficient for us to make decisions and take some actions. Other times we may need some decision modeling tools to develop some recommended decisions and actions. And we take those decisions and actions, and we can further improve the quality of our decision making if we have already developed some predictive models using lots of historical data about this real world, and we have developed some detailed correlations, relationships, functions, and insights about the various variables involved in the real world that we're interested in. So we can apply our current story to those predictive models that we have already developed using historical data and combine it with some decision modeling tools to make our recommended decisions and actions. So that's the whole analytics process. So if you look at the various parts of this process, this is data engineering, this is descriptive analytics, which is what we will study in this lesson. This is predictive analytics, and this is prescriptive analytics. Let's look at some examples of this analytics process. So that's the real world we live in. Let's suppose we are interested in this part of the real world, and in this example, this part of the real world is health of an individual. So this individual wants to improve their health. Who doesn't? So we perform some blood tests to get data on various metrics such as cholesterol levels, vitamin D levels, vitamin B12, iron, sodium, potassium, etc. There's hundreds of metrics like this. So we've collected some raw data on various health metrics, and we have presented this raw data in the form of tables and charts, etc., which tell us a story about the health of a patient. And let's suppose we find out that there's some iron deficiency, there's some vitamin D deficiency. And based on this information, the doctor may prescribe some medicine or some treatment. Now, if this is a more complex situation, the doctor may go back to some past research on how these various variables interact with each other. So past researchers have used historical data to develop some models about these variables. So they may have developed some appropriate healthy ranges for the various metrics. So for example, vitamin D, if it's in the range of 30 to 100, it's in the healthy range. If it's below 30, something needs to be done about it. We have a gap. Iron should be within a certain range. If it's outside this range, if it's below the lowest value of the range, we have iron deficiency. So if the doctor does not know off the top of their head what these ranges are, they can refer to past research, past models about these variables, and apply this patient's information to the past models and use some decision model techniques to make recommendations. Take iron supplements, take vitamin D supplements, go out in the sun more, etc. And the patient makes those decisions, applies those actions on themselves, and they improve their health. So we see how this analytics process is applied to improve an individual's health. Another example, that's the real world. And this time we are interested in an organization, its financial health. So we collect some accounting data on revenues and costs of an organization. We get raw accounting data, not very useful as is. So we process it, clean it, summarize it, visualize it, and we develop some statements, income statement, cash flow statements, balance sheet, statement of retained earnings, which tell the story about how this organization is doing right now. Based on these statements, we can make some decisions, or we can also go back to past research on the various determinants of costs and revenues and apply the current story against what we have learned in the past and apply some decision models to make some recommendations on appropriate cost cuts, appropriate product promotions, appropriate pricing strategies, and apply those business decisions back to the organization. So hopefully these decisions will help improve the financial health of the organization, so this organization is better off. Another example, let's suppose in this example we are interested in the climate of the world. So we collect temperature data across the globe over time, hurricanes across the globe over time, carbon emissions across the globe over time, and we have raw data on temperatures, hurricanes, carbon emissions. And we present this data in useful form that tell a story about the trends of temperatures, trends of hurricanes, trends of carbon emissions. And let's suppose we want to make some decisions to improve the climate. For that, we need to know how the various climate variables interact with each other. So based on past data on the various variables involved in climate, scientists have developed some correlations and relationships between temperatures and hurricane frequencies and strength, carbon emissions, etc. So when we apply what's going on right now to what we know about the various climate variables and use some decision models, we can generate some recommendations such as reduce carbon emissions, grow more trees, use more solar and wind energy, etc. and apply those decisions and actions to the real world to improve the climate. These decisions may involve some new policies for carbon emissions, for example. So we have seen three examples. In all three, we are applying the same analytics process of data engineering, descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics to improve the real world. So now we understand the role that descriptive analytics plays in this entire analytics process. So what is descriptive analytics? Using descriptive analytics tools and techniques, we transform raw data into meaningful forms so that we can tell a story about the real world of interest. If this story reflects some deficiencies from the desired story, we found some gaps. We can then use these findings to make some decisions to close the gap. Sometimes the decisions can be very straightforward and may not require any further analytics. Other times the decision may require some decision modeling tools. We call that prescriptive analytics. We can further improve the quality of our decisions by using a combination of predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. But the precursor to all such decisions and actions is descriptive analytics. So as an analytics professional, we should develop skills in how to transform raw data into meaningful form. Meaningful forms can be either summarized information in tabular form, appropriate charts, appropriate infographics. So as analytics professionals, we should know what kinds of tables and charts are appropriate for quantitative variables, for qualitative variables. We should know what to do if we have one column of quantitative data. It could be discrete or continuous or interval or ratio. What to do with each one of those. What to do when we have a column of qualitative data. What to do if it's nominal. What to do if it's ordinal. What to do if you have two columns of data. What if both are quantitative? One could be discrete, one continuous, both discrete, both continuous. What if you have two columns of data where both are qualitative? Both could be nominal, both could be ordinal, one nominal, one ordinal. What to do if you have two columns of data where one is quantitative, one is qualitative? Qualitative could be nominal or ordinal. Quantitative could be discrete or continuous. What to do if you have multiple columns of data, that is more than two, all qualitative, some nominal, some ordinal. Multiple columns of data where all are quantitative, some discrete, some continuous. Multiple columns of data with mixed quantitative and qualitative. So we have lots of possible combinations and we have to know what to do in each situation. What to do if you have longitudinal data? What to do if you have panel data? What to do if you have ungrouped data or grouped data? Note that the output of descriptive analytics is not just a chart or a table, but a story. That is, we don't stop at creating the chart or a table. Once we are done creating the chart or a table, we need to be able to tell a story that emerges from those charts or tables. Because it's descriptive analytics, we have to describe the real world using data. So the type of descriptive analytics we can perform depends on the type of the data. The analytics we can perform on quantitative data is different from that for qualitative data, and vice versa. Within quantitative data, some analytics we can do with continuous variables cannot be done with discrete variables. The interpretations are different for interval scale data and ratio scale data. So we need to learn about different types of analytics that can be performed with different types of data. But remember, ultimately, we have to tell a good story about the real world. So with descriptive analytics skills, we are learning to be a better storyteller. So think of descriptive analytics as a way to diagnose a problem. Predictive and prescriptive analytics provide the treatment of the diagnosed problem. So correct diagnosis is extremely important. And correct diagnosis requires a good understanding of the different types of data. So just a review of the different types of data. Data can be quantitative or qualitative. If it's quantitative, it can be discrete or continuous. If it's discrete, it could be interval scale data or ratio scale data. Continuous can also be interval scale data or ratio scale data. Qualitative data could be nominal scale data or ordinal scale data. Data can also be classified as longitudinal versus panel. Longitudinal if there is a time dimension. Data can be also classified as ungrouped or grouped. Now within ungrouped, you can have quantitative, qualitative, discrete and all that. Data can be also classified as structured versus unstructured. And data can be also classified as univariate, that is one column of data, or bivariate, two columns of data, or multivariate, multiple columns of data. Because we need to know what to do in each situation. Okay. So that's the end of the introduction of descriptive analytics. Next we will learn what to do with each type of data.